Submarine. In Maui.
For the challenge, yeah? Give me yeah! Awesome! Now, basically just keep looking at the viewports, right? I'm going to tell you what I see and where I see it, but this is a long submarine. And it is quite possible some giant animal will swim up at the other end, and I don't even know what's there. We'll see some combination of things on it. Kind of depends on what animal's around, like the dolphins, for example. As well as currents, safety factors, Captain Tito's experience, all that. At the bottom is an identification guide. Helps you to figure out what animals we're looking at. Now, ironically, you're not going to find a dolphin on there, so we were looking at bottlenose dolphins underwater, spinner dolphins above the water. We've also got labels at both ends, port and starboard. Sandy looking stuff, that's sand. If you see darker rocky coral looking stuff, that's coral. If you see pink covered fleshy blobs, that's fish. Now what you're seeing at the port side, coral garden, small fish. What you're seeing at the starboard side, our main north reef, giant fish. What you're gonna notice, where you have coral, you have fish. Where you don't have coral, you don't have fish. If you have big coral, big fish. If you have little coral, you got little fish. The whole thing's kind of a correlation. Sorry, little subpar humor there. I can't help, I felt like we were floundering. Yeah, I am actually under a lot of pressure up here, but don't worry, everything gets better the deeper we go. What you're going to notice is that in the coral gardens, again, generally small fish. This is currently off the port side. You got a finger coral, cauliflower coral, antler coral, sea urchins, and little tiny fish generally. What you have out the starboard side is the remains of the coral gardens going down the ridge, and also the North Plate Reef. Now the North Plate Reef is between 2,000 and 3,000 years old. There are lots of spots to hide, and so you have all kinds of fish on there. The majority of the fish we're going to see today are vegetarians. Nothing wrong with that. I've been one at various times in my life. But in the human world, they would be described as appetizers to Finding Nemo. But in this case, what we have is the Hawaiian Bacillus damselfish, the Oreo cookie fish, which is kind of a second cousin of the dory. Now a beautiful little bit of chunk of reef growing out of the bottom here on the port side. Now this is a great illustration that all around it's sand and no fish. Little chunk of reef, bunch of fish on it. That's exactly how the bottom of the ocean is. The reef that we looked at, the North Reef, those types of deep water reefs cover less than 1% of the bottom of the ocean that we know about. And here's that beautiful anchor here on the starboard side. Now that antler coral, one of my favorite. It is such a beautiful coral. It's called that because it looks like velvety deer antlers. Unfortunately, it has a limited lifetime. Most coral will just kind of keep growing basically forever. That coral would do that, but it grows very wide and very tall pretty quickly. Within about 50 or 60 years, it generally becomes so top heavy that a current or an animal knocks it over. And it actually crashes to the bottom and then breaks apart. And quite often, many of the pieces die. And sometimes coral will continue growing from it though. And as soon as they decide that you are too close, they'll come streaming out at you, even to the submarine. Now those Oreo cookie fish are actually farmers. Inside that piece of coral, they're actually farming algae. And they have a little piece of algae, so it's both their home and their food source. Pretty cool. Now the kedge anchor itself is from the whaling. Is generally, if it's a large fish away from the main reefs, they have defenses. And so one of the fish that's commonly out here is a parrotfish. It's actually got armor-plated scales on it, googly stuffed animal eyes. Another one, any fish you see out here that has orange on it is generally going to be either a surgeonfish or one of the sub-varieties known as unicorn fish. And they have scalpels in their tail. They're actually so sharp that if you were to grab the fish by the tail, it'll cut all the way through a glove down to your bone and require stitches. So once they are adults, they can swim anywhere they want. Sharks won't even eat them. I can't control what these fish are doing, sorry. But beautiful. And a third one. Now you can see kind of a gray 45-degree stripe through the eye. That will become very dark sometimes. That can change based on their moods and so on. They're at the starboard side of the bottom. Some sleek silvery bluefish just went by on the bottom. Those are bluefin trevally. Those two animals, some of the only meat eaters in the area. Most of them are algae eaters. And again, trying to hide from the meat eaters. Beautiful. There's a shark in the water. It's going right underneath the submarine, right out the starboard side there. Beautiful stuff. Now that was actually a giant great white. That is a beautiful great white tipped reef shark. Now, did you see how wide that load was? Yeah, we think she's a pregnant female. Not 100% sure. It's pretty rude. Down off the starboard side, those are big-eyed emperors. Once reserved for royalty, they taste so good. Oh my goodness, out the port side, there is the incredible Carthaginian or sunken ship and the world's most incredibly aggressive and dangerous marine life, the humanist scubas. Now check this out. Watch, and somehow every single one of them will swim in tune to the music. Pretty phenomenal. Look at all the bubbles. Now really quick up here, we've got coming through in the white stripe, an incredibly rare one-of-a-kind piece of yellow sponge coral known as Bob. So he's got square pants. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, a sponge just couldn't wear normal jeans. You gotta have square pants. Now, we're gonna spin around, we're gonna look at this thing all over the place, but the Carthaginian here is about the only thing here. I noticed everybody starboard was looking over. That's exactly what you did perfect. Looking out away from the Carthaginian, you see sand and algae. When you sink a ship, if you sink it on a reef, you destroy that reef. Now this ship we actually thought was going to take about 3 to 5 years to sink, or sorry, 3 to 5 hours to sink. 3 to 5 years would have been quite a while. Now, in order to sink it, we filled it full of water. That's kind of the normal, safe way that you sink a ship. And once we started filling it full of water, it actually took less than 30 minutes for it to hit the bottom. It sunk just like a ship. Now it is sitting upright because the bottom is a flat bottom boat. It mostly did rivers back in the Baltic Sea. And so that allowed it to be beautiful down here. It's actually got a concrete poured in the bottom of it to help stabilize it, and it landed just like this. Now there's coral growing all over it. The largest corals, not very dense inside, are like right here in the center is antler coral. The large corals that are quite dense on the inside are cauliflower corals. The scuba divers out there are the dangerous animals, and the sharks are the ones we want to look at. Oh, me too. Yeah. I mean, honestly, we all dive here. I love scuba diving and highly recommend it, but they're so easy to make fun of when they're outside the sub, so. Now, along that lines of scuba divers, the reason that this ship is at about 80 feet or so, the bottom of the ocean only about 100 feet, is for scuba diver safety. If you are not very experienced, or even if you are, I know a lot of divers been diving for 20, 30 years and have never gone below 100. Now, one of the first questions I get about these sharks typically is, we've seen them all swimming around today, so it's a little obvious to you guys, is it dead? Right, it's not dead, it was swimming. But people generally think that all sharks have to swim to survive. And that's not actually true. The sharks on TV have to do that. Now that's because the sharks on TV are generally pelagic migratory sharks like great whites, hammerheads, tiger sharks, oceanic sharks, mako sharks, just about any shark on TV. Do it now? Oh yeah, that's a bluefin trevally, but it's got its aggressive colors on. Now the sharks themselves, so hopefully the divers don't know that one's there, and we'll go back by that when we go by the other side of the ship, make sure we get more passes on that, see it. Beautiful animals. These are sleek unicorn fish. Look at the back of the tail. It's got 2 little bumps back there. Those are the scalpels I was talking about. You grab that tail, it'll slice your fingers in half. Wow. Actually, it'll just slice them down to the bottom. Now these are some beautiful fish. They got little powder donut mouths. Also, if you look out the port side down at the bottom, see that googly stuffed animal fish? It's got goofy eyes on it, a teal one and a half black, half white one. Those are the parrotfish I was talking about with the armor-plated scales. On the starboard side, we're coming into the incredible Carthaginian. Now, a lot of these fish come right up to the viewport to check you all out, see who's in the people tank, look condescendingly, and wonder who's here this hour. That's basically because